The scent of pine hung heavily in the air, a sharp contrast to the suffocating unspoken tension that had become a fixture in our suburban lives. Christine had been adamant, almost desperate, about this couple's retreat, a weekend in a secluded mountain cabin free from the distractions of the digital world. A chance to reconnect, she had said, her eyes carrying an uneasy energy I had chosen to ignore. I chalked it up to stress, believing, perhaps foolishly, that this trip was a way of extending an olive branch. As I heaved our luggage from the car, the strain did little to ease the tightness in my chest. For months, an invisible wall had separated us. Intimacy had become nothing more than a hollow routine punctuated by her absence. Even when she was right in front of me, she was physically present but emotionally distant, as if she existed in a separate world. I had truly tried, to break through, but it was like trying to reach a shadow. The lodge itself had a rustic charm, nestled between towering redwoods. At the front desk, a woman with warm eyes and a name tag reading Brenda welcomed us with a friendly smile. She handed me a check-in form and a welcome packet. For the first time in months, a flicker of hope stirred in me as I took the clipboard. "You've got a beautiful place here," I told her sincerely. "Thank you, dear. You too. Enjoy your stay," she replied, her smile carrying an almost knowing quality as she gestured toward a small desk where I could fill out the form. Christine had already wandered off to the restroom, the sharp clicks of her boots echoing against the wooden floor. I unfolded the paper, my pen hovering over the first few lines. Name, address, emergency contact, standard information. But near the bottom, a name leapt out at me, screaming from the otherwise ordinary page. It wasn't our usual emergency contact. It wasn't a doctor or a relative. Instead, next to my wife's information, one name stood out: Dylan. A frigid wave swept through me. It wasn't just the name itself. It was the way she had always said it, softly, as though it carried a weight I wasn't meant to notice. A slow-burning nausea crept up my throat as countless small moments clicked into place. The late nights at work, the secrecy surrounding her phone, the growing emotional distance. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the page. The truth had always been there, lurking beneath the surface, but seeing it written in black and white made it undeniable. The confirmation landed like a gut punch, knocking the air from my lungs. The suspicion I had barely allowed myself to entertain was now an inescapable reality. Christine returned, stopping when she saw me motionless by the desk. "Everything okay?" she asked, her voice laced with the slightest hint of unease. My throat felt dry as I extended the form toward her, my finger resting on the damning name. She followed my gaze, and in an instant, the color drained from her face. A tremor ran through her hand as her wide eyes filled with silent panic. "How could you?" The words escaped me in a hoarse whisper. She opened her mouth, attempting to speak, but no excuses formed. She had always carried herself with such confidence, so sure that she could keep up the charade, maintaining this fragile illusion of a marriage while leading a double life. But now she saw the truth written across my face. Her deception had come to an end. "It's not," she began, but the lie crumbled before it could take shape. I scoffed, my voice low and sharp. "Not what? Not his name. Not an emergency contact." My chest tightened as fury began to build. "Did you think I wouldn't notice? That I wouldn't see it? Is this your idea of reconnecting? Sneaking away to be with him while pretending to fix what you've already destroyed?" My voice grew louder, the restrained anger spilling over. Tears welled in her eyes, but the sight of them only fueled my frustration. Her regret, if it was even real, meant nothing to me now. "I'm so sorry," she finally whispered, her voice fragile, but there was no conviction behind it, no true remorse, just empty words falling into the void she had created. And in that moment, her tears only deepened my anger. Every shaky, defeated word that spilled from her lips only made my anger rise. The lies that had suffocated me for so long had finally been dragged into the light, and now I saw them for what they were: pure filth. I had poured everything into this marriage. Our home, our future, the life we had built together. only to realize she had been throwing it all away for a meaningless fling with someone she barely knew outside of work. The rage bubbled to the surface, raw and uncontrollable. It wasn't restrained or measured. It was the angriest I had ever been in my life. "Sorry," I echoed, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "That's it? After everything? Our life, our years together. That's all you have to say?" My fist clenched at my sides. "Where's the sincerity? Where's the actual remorse?" My voice grew louder, trembling with fury. "I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me? Who even are you? What kind of person does something like this?" I couldn't keep my voice steady anymore. The storm inside me erupted, my entire body shaking with rage. "Here's what's going to happen, Christine," I continued, my voice cold and sharp. "You're going to pack your bags and leave. You are no longer welcome in my life." Her eyes widened in shock, her body frozen in place as tears streamed down her face. The carefully crafted facade she had maintained for so long shattered before me. At the front desk, Brenda glanced in our direction, her expression shifting from polite curiosity to mild concern. She didn't intervene, but she was watching now. Christine lifted a trembling hand, as if trying to halt the inevitable. Wait, she stammered, her voice desperate. I didn't let her finish. I grabbed a room key off the desk, my hands unsteady, but now they weren't shaking from pain. They trembled with finality. "I'll call you an Uber," I said, my tone void of emotion. "Go upstairs, pack what little you own, and be back here in 5 minutes. If you're not, I'll drag you out myself." The color drained from her face, panic setting in. "You can't," she whispered, looking utterly defeated. I exhaled sharply, my expression hard. "I can and I will. Because of vows we took, the promise of for better or worse. You threw away better a long time ago. Now all that's left for you is the worst. And I will stand here and watch as you sink." She gasped softly, and then, without another word, she turned and ran, her boots hammering frantic footsteps against the wooden floor as she disappeared down the hallway. I stood there, strangely empty inside. There was no more rage, no more anguish, just a cold satisfaction. A part of me wanted to prolong this moment, to make her feel every ounce of the pain she had inflicted on me. But watching her scramble to pack up her life, what little of it she had left with me, was a punishment far greater than any words I could have spoken. I waited outside, silent, unmoving. When she finally emerged, dragging her luggage behind her, she didn't meet my gaze. She walked straight past me, heading toward the parking lot. Her silence was louder than anything she could have said. Minutes later, the Uber pulled up. Without a word, I loaded her suitcase into the trunk. I didn't look back. I didn't say goodbye. I simply closed the trunk, got into the car, and slammed the door shut on both the ride and our marriage. She didn't fight it. She didn't beg. She didn't even try to explain herself anymore. She knew it was over. I paid the driver to take her to the nearest town, leaving her to figure out her next steps, just as she had forced me to figure out mine. As the car pulled away, I watched through the rearview mirror as she shrank into the distance. In that moment, I knew this was a harsh lesson for both of us. But for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. This wasn't the reconnection I had expected from this trip, but it was the one I truly needed. A severing of ties, a disconnection from her for good. Back inside the lodge, Brenda gave me a small, sympathetic smile and slid the cabin key across the counter. "Looks like you got a place to yourself now," she said gently. "We can always throw in some extra towels and add breakfast to your stay." I let out a breath, feeling something uncoil inside me. "That would be great," I said, taking the key. As I walked to my cabin, the last remnants of the hurt she had left behind began to fade. This retreat was supposed to be about saving our marriage, but the truth was, she had never given us a real chance. Now I had a chance. For the first time in years, I didn't have to wonder where she was or who she was with. I spent the weekend hiking in the crisp mountain air, letting each step clear my head. The lodge had a communal fire pit, and I found myself laughing with strangers. Genuine laughter, the kind I hadn't thought was possible anymore. This wasn't the weekend I had planned, but in hindsight, it felt like exactly what I needed. I was still the same person I had always been, kind, loyal, trusting, and now I could be that person again without the weight of betrayal dragging me down. Driving home on Sunday evening, I felt no sadness, no grief, only understanding. There was nothing left to hold on to, no emotions to wrestle with, only the certainty that life would go on. Christine's lies had nearly destroyed me, but now that the storm had passed, I was more grateful than ever that she was no longer a part of it. As I pulled into my driveway, my own space untouched by her, I realized something. The only reconnection I had ever needed wasn't with her. It was with myself. The journey had been brutal, but now I could finally be kind to myself again.